All right, so it's time for another little coding challenge. We're going to be pretending that we're making a little app that gives a customer receipt for, let's say, like a restaurant business. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to set up a little constructor function that creates a new object with the first name and the last name of the customer, the subtotal, which is basically the amount before you have like a tax or a tip. So then we're going to get the tax rate and also the level of service they received. This could be good or excellent. Those are the only two choices. So once we've put all that stuff into our object, we want to set up some methods that give us the full name, the tip, and also the tax, okay? So if the person received good service, we want the tip percentage to be 18%. If the person received excellent service, it should be 25%. Now, lastly, we're going to set up a method that basically puts all this stuff together, and it calculates the total bill and returns a receipt with the customer's full name. Now, how you do this is up to you. Basically, what I'm going to do is have the customer's full name, and then I'll have their subtotal, then I'll have their tax, their tip, and then finally their total bill, okay, at the end. So I have some test data here. You can make as much test data as you want, but I have Mary Beth. Basically, this should be separated. So you have Mary and then Beth. So let's fix that real quick. So basically, this is the first name of the person. This is the last name. She spent $200 for the subtotal. She has 0.1 or 10% for the tax rate, and she received excellent service. Then you have Becky Anderson. So again, this should be Becky for the first name, and then Anderson for the last name. She spent $100. That's her subtotal. The tax rate there is 5%, and she received good service. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, give this an honest try on your own, and then I'll be here in a second for the solution. All right, so hopefully that went well for you. If it didn't, I'm here for the solution. So basically, I'm going to set up a constructor function. So I'm going to go function, and basically, I'm going to use a capital letter to name this. So basically, the first letter here is going to be capital G. So I'm going to call this getBill, like this. And basically, I want to pass in, we were told we want the first name, the last name, the subtotal, the tax rate, and the service level. So I want the first name, I want the last name, I want the subtotal, and then I want the tax rate, and then I want the service level, okay? So basically, we know how to set this first part up. Remember, when you call this guy with the new keyword, you're going to get this empty object, okay? And we have access to this object with the this keyword. So we can say something like this.firstName, okay? That's going to create a property in that object with a property name of first name, and the value is going to be first name that's passed in, okay? So then let's just go ahead and copy this and paste it a few times. And we're just going to modify this a bit. So we also have the last name. So let's change that here and also here. I'm just holding down Alt to select two things at once. So I'm going to call this last name here. And it's the same thing. So then let's go here and let's go with subtotal. So subtotal, okay. And then we also want to do the tax rate. So let's do our tax rate. And then lastly, we have our service, okay? So let's go here and here, and let's get rid of this, and then let's type in service. Okay, so that first part is set up. If you wanted to test it at this point, you could come in here, and let's say we use that information we had. So let's grab just one of these real quick, grab this, and I'm gonna come down here and just paste that in real fast. So I'm going to go, let's say const, and I'll say something like customer1 is equal to, you've got to use the new keyword when you call this, okay? And then you want to do get bill like this with parentheses, and I'm going to take this guy right here, and I'm going to pass it in. So I'm going to put this in here, okay? And basically, I'm just going to quickly console.log this customer1 guy, so console.log this customer1, so we can see what was set up, okay? So let's pop this open, and let's run this guy. And you get your object that's been created, right? So the first name is Mary, the last name is Beth, the subtotal is 200, the tax rate is 0.1 or basically 10%, and the service was excellent, okay? So let's close this real quick, and basically let's come in here and do the next part, which basically tells us we want to set up methods that give the full name, the tip, and the tax, okay? So let's start with the full name. It's pretty easy. So we're going to come down here. You can call this whatever you want. And I'm outside of the function now, so I got to come inside of here. So I'm going to go this.getFullName, okay, is equal to, you're going to do basically a function here, okay? And all this is going to do is return, I'm going to use some backticks here and go this, okay, so this.firstName, And then over here, $ curly braces, this dot last name. Okay. You can check these as you go. I'm just going to, for the sake of keeping the video as short as possible, not check each one individually. We'll see it in the end. Okay. So the next method was basically, if we come back up here, we wanted the tip and also the tax. So let's do the tax first because that's easier. So I'm just going to go this dot get tax, okay, is equal to function. And basically all you need to do, let's say the tax was 10%, you would multiply 10% as a decimal, that 0.1, okay, basically by the subtotal, and that would give you your tax. So I'm just going to return, I'm going to do basically the this dot tax rate, okay, multiplied by this dot subtotal, okay, that's all we need to do. Now, in a lot of cases with JavaScript, I'll teach you this later on, you end up with these like really nasty decimals when you multiply with decimals. So in a lot of cases, you might just be comfortable with rounding. So for the scenarios I gave you, you won't have to round, it won't make a difference. But I'm just gonna put this in here in case you want to do extra stuff and you don't want to end up with these long nasty decimals. So you can do capital M for math, okay? And then dot round. And this is basically going to round it for you so you don't end up with that nonsense, okay? So let's come down here and now do the tip guy. So I'm gonna go something like this dot get tip. Now in this particular case, it's not as straightforward because we're not given a tip percentage. We have to figure that out. And it's based on the fact that they might have gotten good service or they might have gotten excellent service. For good, the tip percentage should be 18%. And then for excellent, it should be 25%. And those are the only two scenarios. So the way I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna start with a variable. I'm just gonna go const tip percentage. Okay, and we're gonna use this in a moment. And I'm gonna say this is equal to, basically I'm gonna use my conditional operator and just ask if this dot service, okay, triple equals to, let's say good. Well, in this particular case, I want it to be 0.18, which is 18% as a decimal. Otherwise, I want it to be 0.25, which is 25% as a decimal, okay? So now I can use this tip percentage variable here, and I can just return basically this dot subtotal, okay, multiplied by this tip percentage, which I just calculated. Okay, now again, you can round this if you want. Once again, on the test data that I gave you, it's not gonna make a difference. So I'm just gonna go math.round, okay, like this, and that'll make it a little bit cleaner for you. Just because this is a simple example, we'll get to something a little bit better than this as we progress through the course. Okay, so lastly, we wanna set up a method that calculates the total bill, basically, and returns a little receipt for the customer. So let's come down here and put this last guy in here. And I'm just gonna go this dot, let's say let's go total bill, something like this. This is gonna be a function here. And basically I'm gonna do this by using some backticks here. And I'll do just a bunch of new lines. And I'll say something like bill for, and then we'll do our inside of this guy. We can go this dot get full name. Okay, so we're gonna use this method. So basically this will give me the person's full name. And then I can basically start a new line here and do something like, let's say the subtotal. So we have this already. So I'm gonna put $2 here because I'm referencing one, I need the $ for an actual $, and the other one for the $ curly braces. So I'm gonna go this dot subtotal. Okay, so that's something we have. And again, I'm just gonna keep starting new lines here. And I'm going to do something like, let's say $, or actually let's put in the tax like this. Okay, so $, and then I'll put this dot, I need to get the tax. So getTax, so I'm gonna use that method, and I put getFullName for whatever reason. So let's go back and put getTax like this, okay? And then I'll put a new line, and I'll put the tip, and we'll go $. We're gonna go this dot get the tip, okay, which we should have access to. And then I'll do one more new line here, and I'll do the total bill, okay, the total bill. Let me make sure I spell that correctly. So we'll go this dot, or actually I need $2 here. So $, and then basically your curly braces there. So I want this dot get tax. So that guy, I need plus this dot get tip. So this guy, and then plus this dot subtotal. Now there's lots of ways you could have done this. You could have basically added a property into this object where it contains the tax and contains the tip. Maybe you could have done something where it contains the total bill already, and you could just reference that. There's lots of different ways to do this, but this will work just fine for us for right now. So let's come down here and let's go ahead and call this guy, and you can play around with this and go through each one. I'm just gonna go dot, And I'm going to go get total bill. Okay, so we can see the whole thing. Make sure you use parentheses here because you are calling a function. So let's pop this open and clear this. And let's run this. And we get undefined. So let's come up here and see why. And this is because we didn't return this. So let's come up here. And we need to return this string. Remember, if you don't return something, you're going to end up with undefined. So let's pop this back open and clear this and run this. And you get the bill for Mary Beth. And let me put some thing there like with a colon or something. So let's pop this back open and run this. So we get the bill for Mary Beth, that's your customer's name. The subtotal is $200. Your tax is $20 because again, it was at 10%. So we basically multiplied 200 by 0.1, which gave us 20. So in this particular case, you didn't need to round anything because you got exactly 20. Now the tip for her, because it was excellent service, was 25%. So 25% of $200 is $50. And then basically your total bill came from adding $200, $20, and $50. So that gave you $270. Okay. So basically you can try this with the other one. So let's come down here and let's just copy this real quick. And let's paste this in. And let me come up here and grab this guy. So I need this test data here. So let's grab this real quick. And let's come down here and put this in here. And I'm going to change this to, let's say, customer 2. Okay. So now we have Becky Anderson. She spent $100. And so her tax rate's 5%, right? So she should have a $5 tax bill. And her service was good. So that means she's tipping 18%. So she should spend $18 on her tip. So you have 5 plus 18, which is 23. Okay. Plus 100. She's spending $123 total. So let me come down here and change this to customer 2. Let's pop this open and clear this, and let's run this. So we get our bill for Becky Anderson. The subtotal is $100. The tax is $5. The tip is $18, and the total bill is $123. Now you can try out other basically test data on your own. Just play around with the code and see what you can do.